allowing myself patience, allowing myself a longer interval, it's a sign of kindness.
Hello, high achiever. Welcome to the Inside Job Journey podcast. I'm Tiana, a certified professional coach. I work with highly effective and driven people that are always striving for more, helping them define what that more is and learning what they really want. In this podcast, I want to bring you on a discovery journey where you can learn more about what's driving you to never settle. Hello, welcome high achievers. Today we have with us Alina Florea, who is a high performance coach for high achieving leaders. So welcome, Alina.
Thank you very much, Diana, for having me today and for being able to have this nice chat.
I'm so pleased to have you with me. I think we have many things that we talk about that are very connected. And let's start maybe with your current work with leaders and some of the things that you are finding are their current challenges.
Okay, thank you. Well, when it's written there, high achievers, is mainly because I worked for more than 20 years in management. And for almost 14 years, I've been one of those high achievers all the time, very much involved with 100%, 200% into, achieving, managing. Actually, I was running a 350 employee design company, and I was developing lots of managers, from project managers to all kind of managers, because I grew my management team. And in this, activity, I realized I was also growing with them. And I realized that often is not about knowledge. And because I had an MBA, I had a PMP, so I was, I was supposed to know a lot of things. But then when I was in the shoes of the person doing it, sometimes, oh my God, I was scratching my head and asking how to do it with the people around, how to do it in such a manner to, to involve people, to maintain their curiosity and to decrease resistance. And also to create the best organizational culture, allowing for the change that the shareholders at that time needed in the company. So with that experience, I actually understood that it's a whole, new area of managing self, managing expectations, managing, our internal dialogue between our heirs when we are managers, in order for us to actually perform at our best. And this is how I decided when I said, okay, it's enough with management, to step into coaching leaders, into coaching managers, and, helping them to reach their peak of performance, to helping them to recognize their narrative, helping them to recognize their mindset and work with their mindset to, to have their mindset as their main ally, as their main, resource in obtaining whatever they need to obtain in organizations, but also in their own life, because it's not only about organization, it's Yeah, people are people. They do have a life outside organization. Yeah.
Yes. And there are so many things that I pick up from just this brief description. And you mentioned working on their mindset and aligning everything. And I think that's a critical part. You said it's not anymore about managing oneself, it's also about managing others. But it all starts with you and with your mindset and where you are in that moment and how you can be at peak performance even before starting to helping others manage their own.
Absolutely. It's always about who you want to be in those relationships, who you want to be in those circumstances where you need to obtain a certain result, where you need to strike a certain agreement, where you need to maybe to teach people, or where you need to follow. Because even as a managing director, you really need to follow, the lead of your specialized managers when it comes, to specialized knowledge. Then you need to listen. Otherwise, soon you will do some errors, great errors, I would say. And you really need to know who you are and what are the obstacles, standing in your way to listen, standing in your way to collaboration, standing in your way to, to strike agreements, or to trust even yourself, or to trust others. And there is that formula in coaching, which is said like something like this: performance is potential minus interference. And usually when we are talking about interference, is that emotional interference, which interferes with our decision-making ability. And as a managers, we are hired, to take decisions. So if we, impose our emotions over those decisions, it's kind of the wrong order. we apply the knowledge we have, first emotion, and then we listen to our emotion, and then we definitely won't have the clarity needed, won't have the long-term view. We lose the connection with long-term view, we lose the connection with our focus, and we increase the risk to do something which is not in our support, not in our even interest in long term as managers.
Yes, and you mentioned the fact that they need to understand what are those interference, and I'm just wondering if that let's say knowledge or the awareness of having interference, is that clear to leaders when they start struggling, or do they need to do some self-reflection before understanding that there is interference from their side?
Well, there are leaders and leaders, and this part of knowing oneself usually comes with age. And when leaders are more advanced in their age, they are at a different stage in their life where they already have seen it all. And now they know how to integrate whatever comes to them. But there is a case of first-time managers. There is a case of first line managers going to middle manager, or even of middle managers going up to senior positions. In each of those positions, there are different challenges, and I would rather recommend everyone to be very intentful in how they approach these transitions, because whatever, helps them to get there won't be enough. And it's a process. It's a process of maturing in transitioning. It's a process of transitioning in the new role. And as all processes, it's a learning curve. And in that learning curve, yes, it will be also knowledge. Yeah, knowledge, but it will be a lot of information about how they deal with their own expectations about themselves, how they deal with a new definition of success, how they deal with, a new definition of what is possible for them, a new definition of agreement, a new definition even of, not necessarily a new definition, but they will find themselves in a certain manner, they will be master, and in other terms, they will be just a novice. And they will need to, to deal with this jumping from one position to another. And it will be a bit mind-blowing at the beginning. And it's very useful for them to know when to act, with what expectations to act as a master, and when to act, and with what expectations and allowance to themselves as a novice, as an apprentice, because an apprentice is there to learn, and definitely they need to have the expectations. They will a bit fail, a bit, feel exposed, a bit will feel vulnerable, a bit will feel like a fraud sometimes, especially for high achievers. They will feel like not having enough, needing to prove more, needing validation from exterior. So up to a moment when they will realize they know, they manage to understand the new elements from the new vantage point. And then they will internalize, okay, now I know the elements, now I see how these new elements can be used. And after a certain time, maybe even 1 year, they will start showing elements of mastery, being able to juggle with those elements as a natural, as being there for many years.
True. So true. And you mentioned one thing at the beginning of this discussion, it's knowing it's not enough. Yeah. So you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't apply it, if you don't practice, if you don't fail, as you said, if you're not vulnerable sometimes to show that you're human, it's hard to really transition through that learning phase and into being fully effective, right?
Knowledge, I have two categories of knowledge when I refer to knowledge. It's technical knowledge, to need accounting stuff, to need project management stuff, you need to know, sorry, you need to know technical parts, but beside that, it's like on bicycle, you read the manual, you know that you need to put the hands on the handle, and then to ride the saddle, and then to pedal, but you have no idea how it feels when doing it. You don't have any idea how it feels when you have to climb a hill, when you have to go downwards. It's a totally different thing. And understanding how to make that technical part yours with your internal, resources of patience, of internal resources of empathy, of tolerance, of tolerance for error, for others, or for self, it's a totally different type of knowledge. And usually, yeah, uh, it's usually for me. Let's talk about me. When I start
From your experience.
from my experience, yeah. I used to, when I started to learn something new, I was so upset on me for not being able to get it fast. Now, everything should have been now. But and then I realized, even when I started coaching, I realized, okay, it's impossible. Nobody will be able to coach like a real pro in 1 month. So I with intention, I enlarged my, deadline for obtaining certain results. And in the end, I realized that it's the only, how shall I say, it's the only way which is working for me, allowing myself to go through this period, to internalize, to take note about what I was feeling when I was, kind of feeling naked in certain situations and vulnerable, but in the end becoming comfortable with showing up like this and being even more appreciated by my client, because they really saw me raw, yeah, in action. And they it was also easier for them to show themselves vulnerable and to understand that this vulnerability is actually nothing. It's nothing to endanger their safety. They are perfectly safety. It's only for them to get desensitive. How do you say it? The threshold of sensitivity to raise it a bit. And that's it. You just repeat and repeat, and you have results. That's it. And one day you realize there is no sensitivity there anymore. Yeah. And as a manager, yes, you do it continuously.
And what I really like about this is that you mentioned being very kind in a way with yourself, understanding that it takes time and having that patience and building it, because let's be honest, high achievers are not very known to be patient or to be particularly kind to themselves. Very high expectations, very little patience, now, as you said.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that helped you build that?
First of all, understanding nuances of being kind. In my vocabulary of being kind, initially, I thought it's only about helping others. It was about showing, making myself ready for others, to be there and to show them the way. But then I realized that, as you said, myself patience, allowing myself a longer interval, it's a sign of kindness. Not becoming frustrated with me, just becoming observant and saying, okay, this is what I've done well, and this is what I can improve. It's a different way to show myself kindness. Then understanding and noting, improvement steps. It's another way to show myself kindness, because now I have plotted for myself these are my signs that I am growing, as opposed to, to focus myself on the negative. I focus myself on my real, concrete results showing me that I am improving, that I am going wherever I am going towards my goal. And this is a way, it's like a loop. Whenever you start it, it feeds itself. And it's like, it's a positive reinforcement for appreciating yourself, appreciating the effort, and appreciating the results. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to see the results. Yeah.
Yes. And I love it because it goes back to the fact that we set certain goals and we have this image in our mind of what success looks like. And then if we don't have it exactly how it is in our mind, sometimes we fail to see the progress. And you mentioned it very well in the sense of keeping track of the things that mean progress. Even maybe the KPIs are not improving, the end goal has not been reached, but you have those signals that are telling you you are growing, you're on the right path, you're going in the right direction, and just you need to be patient and kind and just continue instead of feeling frustrated for not being there yet.
I did something also in addition to that. It's one to hold the definition of success. And when I realized that definition was not helping me at all, was just pushing me into that corner where I was beating myself, I said, okay, then I'm going to change it. For example, 1 year ago, I started systematic posting on LinkedIn. And it was like a very stressful, to say at least, period for me for the first 2 months, until I realized that it is not called for nothing, a creation process. And I realized that this process for me means actually the process of agreement with me, whatever I'm going to, put out there. It needn't to be, outstanding. To me, it was important to be, to have a post every other day. And my KPI started to be, do I have a post? Then it's 1. I don't have a post, then it's 0. Whenever I'm going towards my goal. And this is a way, it's like a loop. Whenever you start it, it feeds itself. And it's like, it's a positive reinforcement for appreciating yourself, appreciating the effort, and appreciating the results. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to see the results. Yeah.
Yes. And I love it because it goes back to the fact that we set certain goals and we have this image in our mind of what success looks like. And then if we don't have it exactly how it is in our mind, sometimes we fail to see the progress. And you mentioned it very well in the sense of keeping track of the things that mean progress. Even maybe the KPIs are not improving, the end goal has not been reached, but you have those signals that are telling you you are growing, you're on the right path, you're going in the right direction, and just you need to be patient and kind and just continue instead of feeling frustrated for not being there yet.
I did something also in addition to that. it's one to hold the definition of success. And when I realized that definition was not helping me at all, was just pushing me into that corner where I was beating myself, I said, okay, then I'm going to change it. For example, 1 year ago, I started systematic posting on LinkedIn. And it was like a very stressful, to say at least, period for me for the first 2 months, until I realized that it doesn't, it is not called for nothing, a creation process. And I realized that this process for me means actually the process of agreement with me, whatever I'm going to, put out there. It shouldn't, it needn't to be, outstanding. To me, it was important to be, to have a post every other day. And my KPI started to be, do I have a post? Then it's 1. I don't have a post, then it's 0. Yeah. So instead of looking, how many people will comment, how many people will engage, how many people will like it, how many people will, start connecting with me, I said, I need to have a post there. It doesn't matter good or bad or not. It should reflect my experience. It should be truthful to me, to who I am now. But then it was a totally different KPI from my initial expectation of having engagement, of having, okay. So I realized that it's just vanity stuff. And I put something which was very useful for me to keep me moving ahead in the direction that now I am, present with 4 posts every week. And I do it without even blinking. I know Monday is creation day, but yes, I do it. And sometimes on Monday, I don't finish it. Okay, it doesn't matter. It will happen throughout the week. So it's a no blame game. It's just whatever comes for a reason, and I keep 4 posts on a week. And this is my, one, the KPI is 1 with 4 posts a week.
Yeah. And there are 2 things that I picked up while you were speaking. One is engagement. Oftentimes, people are scared to put themselves out there because they feel like people will not engage or what they will think or whatever. And so one thing that I noticed is that even though you may not have that big engagement, people will read, people will notice. And then sometimes you are talking to someone and they are saying, hey, by the way, I always look forward to your posts. And these people are never liking, never commenting. And I'm wondering, okay. So there are a lot of people that are in there that could be impacted by what you have to say, even if they don't engage actively, or even if they don't comment, you may still be helping people out there. I think that's something that we forget about when we try to put ourselves out there.
Yeah, it's true. It actually is never about us. It's always about, people for whom we are writing. So for example, when I started my newsletter, The Thriving Mindset, I was amazed to see that posting that newsletter, I had in the next 3 or 4 days, 1,700 subscriptions. That was, oh my God. So these people do find something interesting in what I'm saying. And it was not that I didn't know, it is interesting. because I know it's my experience. I know that experience is true, and I've been helping more than 100 managers with that experience, in coaching them. But yes, it was really a bit of a shock.
Mind
I
blowing.
am I am really excited. It gave me, a different reason to put my content there. And whomever is listening this, we the content creators, we are really motivated, by whomever is writing, because we know that message will reach people in need. Yeah, will reach people who need inspiration, who maybe are passing a transition and they have no idea about what would they need. Yeah, for example, when I was a managing director, I think 3 years in my job, I was looking for a kind of resource which I knew is not training, but I had no idea what type of resource is. At that time, coaching was not, it was back in 2010. Coaching was not, or 2008, I think. Coaching was not very familiar in my country at that time. And I did some research before finding, my coach. And I had, because I didn't know what other resources might help. And the discussion with the coach was quite good. The first discussion, I said, okay, I'm going to try. And really, I was amazed by the power of transformation, the coaching sessions had. And I was so impressed that in my, along 10 years as a managing director, I actually brought coaching for me every 3 years. On every 3 years, I brought, again, a coaching program for me. And it was because at every 3 years, I went with the organization through a kind of big change, big organizational maturing, needing first from my side, a change in perspective for being able to, to shift and to draw the managers with whom I was working to look from that perspective and to allow themselves to be part of the entire, even organizational culture change we were performing at that time. So yes, whomever is in doubt, whomever wants a new, performance, or whomever knows they are able, of a different performance, but they feel like stagnating or like being blocked, or like, something is not going or aligned for them, or whomever is transitioning, or whomever wants to change, their domain, really they will accelerate their process by having a coach and by having a partner who will, will be like a mirror, will show their operating system, how they are thinking. This is at least what my coach did to me. And I was, sometimes I was upset of what I was seeing. Sometimes I was amazed because I couldn't believe him. Sometimes I was puzzled. But in 1 year, I had the possibility to, to integrate differently my own way of being, and my understanding who I wanted to be. So this is what in high performance coaching a manager can get.
Amazing. So just to wrap it up, we discussed so many things. If there was one thing that our listener can take away from this conversation, what would you suggest?
Give it a try to coaching. They might be surprised with themselves, and they will have the possibility, to connect with their vitality source, with their how shall I say, well-being source. I think this is what all managers want, besides success. Yeah, success cannot be whole without well-being. There are so many managers who are successful but are miserable. They feel miserable. Why that? I mean, it's a legit question. Why that?
Exactly. And it goes back to redefining what success is, I think, also as a leader, as a manager.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much for your time today. I mean, the topics are so many that I will invite you again to join me in future sessions. I really enjoyed having you on my podcast, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Diana. I appreciate a lot your invitation, and hopefully it was useful for our listeners.
This episode is over. However, you can like, subscribe, and follow for more content.